we had, I think, the best stuff of the month, Konnan.
Yeah, Konnan is fantastic.
He is far and away the highlight of, like, all of these shows, because the very first show of the month, Konnan does the sit-down interview with Mike TNA, and it's basically the good version of the Vince Russo sit-down interview with Mike TNA.
Because he came prepared.
So Konnan has this sit-down interview with Mike TNA. As you mentioned, there's a note in the show notes about how just thoroughly prepared for this Konnan was. By all accounts, he spent the entire day getting ready, studying notes. They did a first take that by all accounts was even better than the second one, but was too long, so that they reshoot it. I don't know why they didn't just edit it, but sure.
I want to see that first cut really badly, because this ruled the second cut, so, yeah.
Yeah, when we were watching the Vince Russo one, we said, like, there's a good version of this, where it's, like, focused on a story, or it's not, like, inside baseball, or it's actually, like, advancing character stuff and advancing story stuff and building to matches. And this was that. Konnan sits down with Mike TNA, and they're basically talking for, like, 5 straight minutes about racism in wrestling. So Konnan is like, look at all these Latin American and Hispanic talent who are succeeding in boxing and succeeding in baseball, and like all of the demographics that traditionally appeal have been turned upside down. It's like Tiger Woods is the most successful golfer, Eminem is the most successful rapper. So like the world is a different world than pro wrestling is treating it as, whereas pro wrestling is just stuck in the past. It's like just a bunch of generic white dudes. Like there couldn't be a greater testimony to Konnan's point that this month of TNA ends with the fail sons of Brian Lawler, David Flair, and Eric Watts, thoroughly mediocre white men who are sons of successful fathers getting opportunities that they have probably no right to over people who are much better than them. And Konnan's just sitting there at the start of the month being like, well, I told you so.
Just a compelling speaker, you know? And it always helps when something's rooted in reality too. And
it starts where Mike TNA is like kind of pushing back and kind of like, you know, skeptical of things he's saying, because he says like outright, it's like, oh, Jerry Jarrett, Vince McMahon and Eric Bischoff are racist. And you can see like a bit of Mike TNA wanting to push back on that, but like after Konnan talks for the next minute straight, Mike TNA is just like, no, I can't challenge him.
Yeah, the only one he challenges is on his, and he goes, and you're racist too, Mike TNA.
Yeah, he's like, no, wait a minute. I've been advocates for these kind of talents for years and years, which, to be fair, he was. That's like the big recurring joke in WCW. It's like, oh, it's a luchador or Japanese wrestler in the ring. Time to get Mike TNA on commentary to tell you actually who this person is, because he's the only person that cares to find out.
I do like, there's like a level of begrudged respect that Konnan gives TNA as well. Which is, I think, is a nice touch. Because it would have felt disingenuous if he just went full in on TNA as well, I'd feel.
And like TNA's like there is the fact checker. It's like he's like, who sold out Mexico Arena with 52,000 fans or whatever it was. It's like, that was you. Who was in this soap opera where we were sitting in a restaurant together and suddenly it came on TV and everyone started paying attention to Konnan on this soap opera, which is apparently a true story, where everyone like that soap came on TV with Konnan and everyone was like, ooh, Konnan. And that was you.
My favorite line about with TNA there was like, he just comes up and he's like, yeah, even the cooks came out from the kitchen to watch.
Yeah.
Imagine being that over.
I know. I'll never understand it personally, because I know Konnan's terrible. But look.
It's all charisma, you know, more than actual ability, isn't it? If it's like star power is a whole different thing.
Bad wrestlers become stars all the time, which is always the reason people are giving out. It's like, that guy doesn't have it. It's like, if you book anybody the right way, you can probably make anybody a star.
Yeah, if they have the charisma to handle it. And the composure to handle it. You're pretty much set. You can make anyone you want a star. Like, I think that's the reason. Yeah, they need to have like the mainstream appeal. If you got that, yes, you're fine. You know, like there's a reason like MJF is gonna work for AEW, and there's a reason that Orange Cassidy has already worked for AEW. It's because these are guys that are marketable and that a mainstream audience can understand.
And a thing fans do all the time now, which I really don't like, and I think it comes from the fact that nobody's over, but they find the reasons why people shouldn't be pushed. It's like,
yeah,
this person's the best wrestler ever, but they're not charismatic. It's like, well, give them a manager. Give them a character where they're the best wrestler ever, and they don't need to be charismatic.
Don't just write them off because of these problems. Try and work around these problems so that you have a star.
Yeah, it's the Paul Heyman credo that's been beaten to the ground, but is still nonetheless true. It's like, accentuate the positives and hide the negatives. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's the opposite of what WWE do, where like WWE have this mold where if you cannot go out and cut a 15-minute promo, you will not make it there. No matter who you are, no matter how talented you are, no matter how charismatic you are, if you can't hold a microphone in your hand in that company for 15 minutes and do their stoic delivery, you won't make it. And it's so stupid.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Ugh. So Konnan continues through the month. He recruits the SAT as his pals for like a week. If we get like a week-long SAT heel turn.
Yeah, which is great. We also got I don't know if it was mentioned, probably was, the greatest line of all time is that the wrestling fans are racist.
Oh yes, wrestling promoters and wrestling fans are racist.
Advocating for that to be added to the intro just for this week.
We'll add it for 1 week only, if I can fit it in.
If you can fit wrestling fans are racist in. You don't need to put in the promoters. I just want wrestling fans are racist in the intro.
You demand it. So yeah, Jerry Lynn beats the SATs in a triple threat match.
A good match too. I thought it was a really fun little match.
I thought the match was fine but forgettable.
Well, God forbid I like a match that Garrett doesn't.
This is me getting revenge for you shitting on the Dusty Invader tagging.
Damn.
But we do build to, I think, a much better match later in the month where Konnan introduces Juventud Guerrera, the Juice, to face Jerry Lynn. By the way, we must say, the entire premise of this feud, which probably should have mentioned, is that Konnan is very mad that the X Division has stolen the style and of wrestling and all the spots and the moves of Lucha Libre and co-opted it as their own and branded it as their own.
They gentrified it.
So Konnan is upset about this and he wants the luchadors to get the credit that they deserve.
It's a cool little storyline. I do have to admit that it kind of feels like a demotion for Jerry Lynn.
Well, to be fair, for the last few weeks he's been feuding with David Flair and Mike Sanders.
Yeah, but it still felt like he was a part of the big overarching sex versus tradition feud. Now it feels like, alright, back to the X Division nerd.
I think that's a conscious choice on there. But actually, to be fair, Jerry Lynn does cut a promo on these shows about how he's going back to the X Division, so he is consciously going back to the X Division. But I think they realize Siaki's a bit of a dud, which we'll talk about in a sec, and the X Division needs some people because they took everybody out of it, and now they realize, oh god, there's nothing left. We have to put Jerry back there for a while.
But you know what I mean? Like, it feels like a bit of a step down.
But he has a great match with Hoovy.
Sure does, and it there's a really interesting part where it's like, it does kind of feel like, you know, each other are like, you know, the same side of the coin or whatever. Like, it's like, oh yeah, Jerry Lynn and Hoovy, and they're kind of doing the same stuff, and it's a fun little dynamic.
So that's Konnan. Probably, as I said, it's the best thing this month, I think, by landslide. Both in terms of it has the second best match, I think. Hoovy and Jerry Lynn is the second best match behind AJ and Jarrett, and it has far and away the best promo stuff with Konnan.